Welcome to the PIXI Gaming podcast, your place for in-depth breakdowns of video games, the characters themselves, and how they make me, my guests, and all of us feel. And today I am joined by my best friend, Adam Sixsmith.
Got that in there last time.
And just to start off the podcast, I will just announce that basically we've spoken behind the scenes and our plan is to have a weekly podcast with you every week now. So not only will Adam be jumping on the bigger podcasts such as the spoiler cast and the breakdowns of characters and the heftier podcast with a lot of people that will be longer and stuff like that, but also we will be doing a weekly podcast every single week together, and hopefully be ramping that up to more than one weekly podcast as time goes on and as we have more time to pour into this. But yes, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Being a part of the PIXI Gaming podcast from this moment on, which is really good and really, really positive, and I look forward to it. And I hope that we keep drumming up days like we have today, which has been super, super productive, which is ace. But we will start off with, as I always do, what's in play on this day. And basically, I played so many games in the last couple of weeks because of yourself. Basically, you came around last weekend, and just to sort of start it off, what I haven't done since I've started doing this gaming podcast is I haven't had a session. Like, there's something magical about having 3 or 4 different games that you've got in front of you that you can just zim in and out, or if it's on your PS4, just keep switching to. And the multiplayer or whatever it is, and just playing a couple of games with one, stop in, playing a couple of games with another, stop in, and stuff like that. And it was really, really fun just sitting and not worrying about anything last weekend and literally just hammering games till 4 in the morning or whatever. Can't remember what time it was exactly we started, but it was hefty. But yeah, so what have you been playing yourself of late?
Well, obviously UFC with you, FIFA, just the standard one. Played a little bit, but the big one is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Oh, thoroughly enjoying it at the moment. Just Alexios, I relate to on an emotional level. He's just cocky and headstrong and brash, and I just like it. It's a really good game. It's really immersive. It's just a standard Assassin's Creed one, a really beautiful open world. Traversing it, even though it's a big map, if you take it bit by bit, it is quick. Getting around the buildings and stuff. You've also obviously got your option to follow the road so that you're not constantly. The problem we had with Red Dead where we'd fall asleep getting across the map, so that's not too bad. But overall, I'm really enjoying it.
And what about the side missions and the little things in the game?
Oh, the side missions are hilarious.
Yeah.
So I was doing one where there are romance storylines in the games. You come across male or female. It's obviously in ancient Greece there are a lot more free with their sexuality. So if you're a man, you can find men or women to pull, for want of a better word. And then you do certain missions for them to try and get them into bed. And there was one where I walked up to an old lady, an older woman, I would have said about 50, and she was telling me about how her husband couldn't get it to work. So you had to go and get this the ingredients for this elixir, bring it back to her, and her husband says, "No, you're going to kill me, stop." So then one of the lines of dialogue is for me to sit there and go, I'll satisfy you, I'll service you. Just mechanic talk in ancient Greece, talking about like she's a car, and then daytime, nighttime, like 3 days, and then your character walks around and goes, keep her happy for a while, just gives her husband a cheeky wink, and he goes, "Thanks, I can't thank you enough."
Oh,
It's
wow.
like for plowing his wife.
So,
Alright.
So it gives you, So it gives you the option of being cheeky in a scenario, doing what you like. I like that. Yeah. That's cool. So, in terms of the open map and how massive, you showed me earlier on today how huge the map is and stuff like that. Are you enjoying obviously? I was quite impressed with the graphics, but how are you feeling about the sort of ambience of the world? Because obviously it's probably a little less extremely detailed as Red Dead.
Yes.
But do you feel like it's? How do you feel about the world when you're going around it?
Well, because they've got more of an emphasis on the naval side of it than any game apart from maybe Black Flag. It's a nice change. You've still got massive expanses of forestry and trees, mountains, and stuff. And the only thing I can say about the environment in a negative light, I think, is probably just the fact that there's not a lot of wildlife. You know, what I've come across most is wolves. Every 10 minutes, it's a real pain. But then like, there's bears and stuff. There's what they called.
Deer and stuff.
Yeah. Ibex, which are like goats, mountain goats, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
is there mythical creatures and stuff in it as well?
Oh, yes. There's things like hyenas, I think, but the main one that I've come across so far is a big bull, and it's a bull the size of a bear.
Oh, okay.
And like, it says, recommend level 13, and I'm level 15, and it trampled me to death.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's one of those where it has a running attack, you dodge, you get down to a certain amount of health, and then like 8 little boar babies attack you from behind, and it's just...
Jeez. But overall, you're enjoying it at the moment.
Yeah. Oh,
it's really something that we'll break down again in the What's in Play this day, because I'm assuming you'll play it for a while.
Yeah. I'm not very far in it yet, so you know.
It's a really long, humongous game, and then obviously we will do, once I've borrowed it off you and played myself, we will do the smashed.
Nah, it's fine.
Cool. We will do the breakdown of, like, we'll do a sportcast of it basically, and break down what we feel about the characters and stuff like that. So myself, obviously, we played FIFA 19 together. I really enjoyed that. We'll break down that a little bit more later on. And UFC, I really enjoyed UFC. I played UFC 2. I bought it on my PS4, and I was a lot better than my friends in it, so they never played me. And now, obviously, we can play it together. It's ideal. UFC 3 is slightly different to UFC 2. I think, actually, a lot smoother. The controls are a lot smoother. You used to have to press different, like the triggers were slightly different with how you block and how you attack and stuff like that. So the triggers of UFC are slightly different, but in terms of us playing it together, it was really fun. Like it was fun playing a fighting game. Like I like fighting games, and I've not had a great exposure to like Mortal Kombat and the more technical and then the technical types of fighting games. But because it's sports and
it's aimed at not necessarily just winning the fight, but you know, if you can't get a knockout, you've got to win on points. So it's more of a tactical thing. You've got to protect yourself more, but at the same time, you've got to make sure you get the right shots in and they're accurate.
It very much is UFC as well. It's not as if it's like a fighting game with UFC people. It's not like you're Conor McGregor and some guy and you just like you can just button mash and go in mad. Like you have to like think about your stamina. You have to think about blocking.
Fighter strength, you know, and it's not even like on the WWE games where you get the big show fight Rey Mysterio, because come on, that's likely to happen, isn't it? You know, it's as much as like, and then Rey Mysterio somehow coming and getting him one kicking in and winning, you know, it's just not realistic. Whereas UFC, you've got your set fighter classes, you've got McGregor in 2 classes, you know, you've got the fighters that do jump between classes coming in there. But at the same time, McGregor's better in one weight class than the other, because the other fighters he hits harder, which the other fighters don't, you know. But he hasn't quite got the speed, so you've got to make sure you use that without depleting your stamina too much, because otherwise fighters like Khabib are going to just run all over him, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting that there's like a huge difference in different people, and like, you know, other like something I've noticed myself is that it really is frustrating when you have someone who's more of a striker or more of a grappler and they can't kick very well. And it's something that, like, when you don't have that range to your game, it's quite difficult, because when you've got to get up close, you just smash hell out of me. Apart from that, last week this week I played or completed God of War, which is just unbelievably good, and I'll break it down a little bit in my solo podcast coming up. And I will be doing a sportcast of it soon enough. But yeah, that was truly wonderful, and I'm looking forward to playing more of the storyline based games now. It's freed up some more time, so I'm playing GTA with Amy, and we'll be breaking that down as it goes along and stuff like that as well. But I'm sort of looking towards what is going to be my next sort of the one I play by myself as a sort of solo story based game. So I look forward to that. But yeah, I think that sort of wraps up nicely the in play on this day. I mean, is there anything else you're playing specifically? I suppose FIFA 19 career mode, stuff like that yourself.
Of course, a lot of that.
You got your English team on the go.
Just tearing me apart with Man City.
I was playing
in career mode, he says.
Yeah, I was playing against Adam last night as his opponents on his career mode, which is quite fun actually. I've never done that before. and it was really interesting. But yeah,
even if you did get massively lucky,
it was a tough couple of games. At the start of the game of the season, you got Man City, then Chelsea first 2 games of the season, brutal.
Yeah,
but yes,
it hurt me as much as it did in real life. So.
We will we'll move on to the next segment, which is a new segment. Just before we sort of move on, I'll just explain it a little bit. Is that now Adam is going to be on the podcast every single week. We have devised a segment basically where Adam's going to be your host for this segment, and it's going to be something that I look forward to every single week, and I'll allow him to explain it in the next segment, but it's just something that's going to be a little bit different about your podcast compared to everyone else's and compared to my solo and everything, so it's cool. So we will be right back.
Welcome back to the PIXI Gaming podcast. This is the Sixsmith Sports Special, my weekly rundown of mine and Ryan's journey to the elite level of sports gaming greatness. Each week, myself and Ryan will delve into a new world of sporting mastery to become the greatest pixelated sports person the world has ever seen. Today we'll be breaking down FIFA 19.
Yeah.
So, what do you make of it? Obviously, I played a lot more, so...
Yeah, so last week was my first introduction into it, and it's very... as much as FIFA is, it's a very difficult game to sort of break down unless you really have played FIFA yourself a lot, which I think probably all time I've probably put the most hours into FIFA than I have out of any game because I never have ever skipped a career mode game. I've never simmed it, and I play through every single game. So if to break it down is hard because you don't want to. The things that I'm going to talk about are a little bit more sort of specific to if you've played FIFA a lot. So if you haven't played FIFA a lot, some of it will make just ever so slightly less sense to you. But it's like sort of it comes out every year, so it's like there's just slight tweaks they do to the game to make it different and better in some ways, or worse depending on how good you were at the previous one. Yeah. So I obviously was playing FIFA 18 recently. I only just deleted it off my PS4. I was playing career mode, and then obviously you came round and brought around FIFA 19, and it is different in a lot of ways, obviously similar in a lot of ways. Number one, it's got a Champions League in it, so that's massive. Like, how many years have you wanted the Champions League in it? Like, the Champions League is the football pinnacle for clubs.
It says it on itself when it introduced it on the game, innit? The premier competition in club football. It's
no doubt.
There's nothing bigger.
And hearing the theme tune and seeing the ball and the stadium,
the trophy being wheeled out, even on your career mode when it's doing the draws and they're pulling the balls out, and that's the first time you find out what team you're playing. They put out Arsenal and then Real Madrid in your second season back, and you're like, well, that's nice while it lasted. Cool. Back to Europa League next season. Cheers, boys. But no, it's even if it is just a reskin, it's a nice addition. I think we've all felt a bit robbed by career mode in the past because they'll never bring out huge advancements, and in a lot of ways they've gone backwards quite a lot from the days where you train your whole squad to gain experience as you went on. Now you can train 5 players and that's it. The other players will grow slowly, but not a great deal. Things like sponsors. You're playing as a manager of a club, and you used to get sponsorship deals. It'd show up on your shirts and everything, but now it's just got the plain normal standard ones that your teams have got, which I understand, but at the same time it doesn't really add any longevity to the career. I, for one, am one that struggled to get past maybe 3 seasons in because everything stays the same. You've got the same kits, players are the same heights. You've got a 21-year-old player that comes through at 5'7". He retires at 31 at 5'7". If you get a 15-year-old youth academy player coming through at 6'3", I don't expect any growth. But like, if he's 15 years old at 5'4", and he stays there, this is just, come on, it's not really. I'd love to see facial hair. You could edit that. Different updates on kits. So obviously on career mode, it's another little detail, but it was a big point of the marketing.
Allowing you to change it yourself to be ace. Allowing you to create, so after the first season you then create your new kit. So obviously same. Or even if it's
just got a list of a bunch of old kits from your club's history. That you could pick through there. Because it'd be difficult to sort of sit there and say make your own because I think I can't
just changing the colour palette.
Yeah, getting it right would be difficult. But like if you could pick from a group of old shirts, so instead of some horrible blue away shirt Arsenal have got, you can pick the blue and gold one.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be great for me. But like these days now, you can change if you get relegated, your badge on your sleeve changes from the Premier League to the Championship.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is cool. Really cool. Yeah. If you play a Champions League game, it says Champions League game instead. And, you know, it is quite different in that aspect, but.
It's those little details that make the difference in terms of when you've played it for a long time, you notice.
Things like that. It's very easy to sit there and not play it very often, and then you know, as a FIFA player, all you've heard is, oh, it's the same game every year with just a new transfer. It's like, but it's more than that, you know.
I think it'll be interesting for us to, as we go on this journey of breaking down all of sports games that we can possibly get our hands on, basically. As we go along on this journey, to go back to the older FIFA and see what works, see what doesn't work in contrast to this, and also how other games have things. Because something that I would always want FIFA to do is what NBA do with where they have like a panel beforehand of people that are on it. So they have Shaq and Penny and people like that, and they break down the game before and break down what's going on and who's like leading the stats, and it's like a little bit like repetitive and it will do stuff like that, but it creates that little depth. Although to be honest, you skip it like midnight.
But it's like we were saying the other day, wasn't it? The bit that you can't skip on FIFA in the Champions League is when your players are doing keep ups or playing around and doing a bit of training rather than the lining up, shaking of hands, you know, all that. That's the stuff that builds the atmosphere rather than just Mesut or just chipping the ball over Granit Xhaka. You know, I don't care about that stuff. You know, give me a little bit of tension.
And the commentary at that moment is cool because it's like, oh well, we're ready for a big day of football, whatever it is, and that's cool. But it'd be cooler if it done that, and you know, I'd like it if it like showed the lineups or showed like just your best player getting ready, and then showed his stats or something. Like saying like, oh, this season he's a top goal scorer.
And compare two players maybe. You know, if you've got Arsenal coming up against City, Aguero versus Aubameyang, or David Silva versus Torreira, you know, something like that. It's a little bit more of a central on your star player. I mean, I know you can have a team full of stars, but there generally is one player that stands out, you know.
For sure. So, obviously, we want to be, as we do this, we will be breaking down different segments, basically, of what we feel about the game. So, so you've written down things that you want us to go through, like specific different categories, basically, that will break down about each game we play. So we will now do that today for FIFA 19, which will be ideal.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to mention was the accessibility of the game. Whether there's too many menus, you know, how the menus look, if they're easy to get through, and just the basic controls of the game. So if you feel like, you know, do you feel like, I don't know, maybe it's changed a lot from the older games, whether it's harder or easier?
So one thing to sort of immediately go with that is and as a player who I started on PES, so I play effectively the wrong way around. So I play shooting is square and slide tackle is circle, or that would be X and B on Xbox. But it's difficult because when you usually go into the game, you can pick sides.
Yes.
And then you can flick between what controls you do.
Yeah.
But now, as you go into it, you have to go into customized controls on kickoff. Yeah. So you have to go into customized controls and then change it to.
And it doesn't seem quite, you know, set as the default, because it's the same with the trainer.
Yeah.
We end up having to turn that off for you every game we play. Yeah. And it does just make it that little bit less immersive, because you've got to, you know, you've got this build up into game.
It's like
and
just
then you're like
bumps.
kick off and you're like, oh yeah, I've got to pause the game not even 30 seconds in to change this. And immediately, if you pause it after kickoff, it's just ruined that already. If you do it before kickoff, then it's not too bad.
But even before kickoff, the smoothness of being able to go through it, it's always a bump in the road, me having to change my controls anyway. But the fact that I could just go left, boom, I'm ready. But now I'm like, I'll go into customized controls, I'll change it to alternate, come back out, okay, right, I'm ready to go. You know, but then again, they've got it where if you go into the game and then just go select sides, it's got it like it used to be. So I don't know why they took that out.
Yeah.
But so that's the first thing. So immersiveness, and I guess the sort of the way the game feels, it just feels like FIFA. It feels like how they've always felt. I feel, especially something we agree on, is just that, you know, the menu system is very same.
This is the thing, because you play NBA, or I saw somebody playing Madden on YouTube the other day, and the menus are just far better. There's so many features on those games, and it's got the same base as the problem. It's a sports game made by EA, and it just seems like they neglect FIFA a lot more. But that's the thing. EA just seems to be interested in making the money at the moment with microtransactions and Ultimate Team. All the Ultimate Teams they do now. It's very much a case of more on FIFA than anywhere else. The offline modes are getting left behind and forgotten.
Which we can always hope for the future changes. But next segment then, next thing that we're breaking down about FIFA 19.
Well, now we've just got the general gameplay. So, passing, is it accurate? Do you get any glitches, anything like that? Because I have noticed myself that you do get the odd bit of lag, even offline. I'm playing against you and I'll play a pass and then suddenly the player will just stutter a little bit in his movement, and I don't really know why that happens. It shouldn't. There's no need for it to happen. It's frustrating because it does take away from that immersiveness.
It's something that immediately, the first time we played it, the first game we ever got into, was the ball feels much like it's got weight behind it now.
Yes,
That's something that was massive.
A very big
plus. The first pass I played, it felt like I had to actually boot it across the field. Like, it wasn't just like or wherever I wanted it to go. It was just like I had to really and it travelled, and the way it sounded, and like it just sounds just so, and the way the ball moves is a little bit more like a like a real football game. That's what it's always trying to do, is always trying to emulate the real thing. And it's like the weight of the passes is really, really nice. But obviously I've written down some other things of the gameplay itself that I've noticed there's a clear sort of substantial difference between FIFA 18 specifically and this game, and that is obviously the passing and the weight of the ball. Shooting is obviously humongously different because you've got to do now timed shooting. I've now become a little bit more used to that. I don't feel like it's a huge hindrance. It's just sometimes when you're in the box and it's quite sort of dainty, and it's like the more dainty touches and dainty finishes and stuff like that are quite harder to do.
I mean, we've seen a few different points, haven't we, where yesterday I was playing Rashford, Fruit Ninja, I sliced that so badly, and I was about just outside the 6-yard box, and the next thing you know, it's in row Z. It's come off the top of his foot and just straight up, and that's
it was technically green.
But then at the same time, I've had a yellow one where I've hit it from 30 yards and it's gone top bins. Which is a lot different, obviously, and it's not necessarily what you'd think. But what I take away from it is, green's a lot more about connection. If it's a good connection, obviously you can still miss.
Yes.
It's a lot more about the direction you're aiming at with your left thumbstick.
Another thing I noticed myself was, I think FIFA 18 sort of was very slow.
Yes.
And it was very methodical, and it was like they went, right, we're going sort of like that you can't just do the FIFA, which was always just, it's all about pace. It's all about if you put a through ball in, the defenders are never catching you.
Yeah.
Right, and I feel like that's backing away for sure, because there's been plenty of times where when you put a ball through, and even myself, like when I put like a long through ball through, that my winger's running onto it, and that you just don't have a hope to catch up with them. And I feel that's something I feel personally myself a lot more, especially in comparison, like I say, to FIFA 18, where it felt like, even when I was sprinting at full speed, I felt slow in FIFA 18.
Yeah.
And this, you feel a lot faster. That's also a hindrance to me, because I'm always like, I just have no chance catching it.
See, the thing, what I think that is for me is pace isn't as overpowered as it used to be. But I just think that if I'm past you, your defenders definitely get some sort of bonus pace. They'll catch me. If I'm ahead of you, then it's the quick passing and then playing ahead. That's the thing. If I've got the ball, then I just seem to be slower than without the ball, which is fine until I take a heavy touch and then you're still putting me back. That's got to be a foul. And I just think there's a little bit of stuff in there that needs to be polished about the physicality of the game. And I do think that if you're past the defender, rather than just letting you sit there and go, I'm having you back, if unless you're a player that's like Van Dijk or Sergio Ramos, who have got the physical presence to sort of sit there without giving away a foul and screen and hold back, then fair enough. But if you've got Dejan Lovren and you're sat there going like that, now I'm having you back, and then the referee goes, play on, it's fine.
But then there's that aspect of, I guess they're trying to incorporate one of the most beautiful things, frustrating things about football, is that it's done via the naked eye. So it's done by a referee, and referees humans, and they make mistakes and stuff like that. And there's like, if the referee's over here and I tuck my arm in here and pull your shirt, they can't see that and stuff like that. And I like the fact that they incorporate things that are in real football and stuff like that. And I guess the last thing that I sort of wanted to make a point of myself, especially that's on my list, about the gameplay, was the ball control is a little bit more cute. So it's like when you're in the box and you are someone the likes of Raheem Sterling, who's really good at dribbling, the ball really does stick to your foot. And they've done it before where they've like really tried to work on dribbling and stuff like that, but either like, I feel like now if you swing a leg at me, I can actually it's much more responsive in the way that I can move the ball away from you and stuff like that, which is frustrating defensively, but offensively it's great.
Oh, definitely. I think whereas the pace is concerned, because FIFA have always tried to be a little bit more methodical, and having said that, maybe giving the defenders a little bit more of a pace boost compared to strikers, I think the game has got to be, if you've got pace, you use it to beat players. I think what they've got to focus on is making the defensive intelligence of the computer better, so that it helps you out in that aspect. You're better at cutting out attacks before they start, rather than them sitting there and going, we're going to give you this unfair advantage. Because at the moment, it does just feel like I've got Leroy Sané running through, and I've got then Dejan Lovren picking up my player going, nah, discard him. And then, it's just not that realistic. And it's frustrating more than anything.
But yes, that's the gameplay. So that's the gameplay sort of our take on the gameplay of it at this point.
So then we've got atmosphere, visual and audio, chants, sound effects. What do you make of that?
I feel specifically that I haven't noticed it.
Yeah?
It's something that I haven't noticed. In FIFA 18, I really noticed the crowd. There was something that was massive to it. In this, I'm not sure whether they've dumbed down the crowd sound. I'm not sure whether it's because it's the first time I've been playing it. It's harder for me to sort of... I've been concentrating more on playing the game. But this, I especially just have not noticed the crowd. And that's something where beforehand, especially when you scored and stuff, it was massive in terms of... although, actually, the one thing I did notice was when I was 3-1 down against you as Chelsea, they done like a roar when I started to go forward, as if like the fans were getting behind me then, and that was something that actually I really enjoyed. And I like the fact that not only did they do that, I didn't notice it until the commentator said, and the fans are really getting behind Chelsea now as they try and work back into this. And that was really cool. That was something that gave it like a way deeper aspect to it, and I really enjoyed that. That was something I enjoyed. But in terms of the ambience and the sound and stuff like that, another thing that I do want to point out, just thinking about it, is something I've always loved about FIFA, and we will break it down the more FIFAs we do as we go along this journey, because we will stumble upon more FIFAs as we go, is soundtracks in FIFA have always been absolutely brilliant, and I really don't like this one. I feel like it's ambient, it's in the background, but in previous FIFAs, I mean, like I say, I'm talking from someone who's played like 5-6 hours of it, maybe 10 hours of it so far. I've not put a great deal of time into it, but so far the music hasn't been like, even when I very first played like FIFA 15 and stuff, I was like, oh, like there's that one or two songs you're like, I really like this, and you start like jigging to it, and then in the end, like one thing you'll find across the board, which like I say is another thing that I love to sort of bring up. I always love how video games affect people of different types of people in society and stuff like that, and there's something that like when you put a FIFA song on, like at a party or wherever, there's like all these random guys all know the lyrics to it, and you're like, we all,
I mean, on the older games, Blur, Song 2, things like that, Supermassive Black Hole by Muse. I think there's a couple of good songs on the FIFA 19 soundtrack, but I don't think it's outstanding or anywhere near as some of the better ones. But yeah, as soundtracks go, I don't think it's anything massively special. I think there was yesterday I was skipping through songs to find the good one that I like.
Yeah, that's it, and that's odd, because usually, like in previous FIFAs, I've never felt the need to do that.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the only game I've ever done that to before was Burnout 2, which it was I'm Not Okay by My Chemical Romance. The only song I listened to while I was driving on that game, and it's apart from that, it's the only one I've really ever done it on.
So what about the ambience for yourself? Like, how are you feeling about it? The sounds. Although, like I say, the last thing I was sort of on this topic, last thing I'll say is that the sound of the football going around the pitch, so the kicking of the ball, is like deeper and is nicer. And
yeah, you do hear. Obviously, the closer you get to the microphones on the end of the pitch, the louder the thump is. I do like that, yeah. But I think what you need to do, and what we'll have to do next time we play FIFA, is have the volume up loud, because then it's the way it carries around the room when it's louder will also make it more obvious. But the chants, you'll get really, really loud chants. Obviously, then you get the olays when you're playing the ball around too much. When I do have a piece of skill, the crowd go, oh, it's little things like that. It just sort of makes it. I go, yeah, I really like that. But then the whistles when you do something, when you're doing badly,
okay, cool.
Yeah, it's all round. I think it's probably the in terms of audio in game, it's the deepest and most detailed it's been, and I do really like it. But again, it is one of those where you're not going to concentrate on not getting thumped 4-0 and listen to the sound effects at the same time. So I think you probably get away with that one. Other than that, I think the graphics obviously are a lot better. You've got a lot more face scans. A lot of the Premier League players have got face scans. I think it could be better. If you've seen Axel Witsel on the game, mate. Oh, no, he does not look like himself. But I think that's just something that will improve as it goes on.
Yeah.
Obviously, as you get more licensed leagues, the only one that's really missing, the big one, I think, is they've got Italy, haven't they?
Yeah,
I think they've got most of them now, but there's just a few more.
Again, there.
As each year they add more stadiums and stuff, so it'll get better. And then the reskin with the Champions League, while it's only superficial, it is a nice addition. The only thing I'd like to see more of in terms of visual and audio stuff is maybe broadcast networks. So maybe some games you'd play, it would be on Sky. Some games would be on BT. You'd have different commentary teams for either one, and then different ones for the Champions League. Different badges on the kits. And just maybe more introduction. So you'd have it like you have it on Match of the Day, or on the game where they'll stand up, they'll have a little visual going forwards, but you've got the official Sky or BT. Because I kind of feel like if you were to do that, Sky and BT would be straight on board, because FIFA is one of the biggest games on the planet.
It's all
they
exposure,
make so much money on advertising, so why not offer that opportunity to BT and Sky, get a bit more money, and then do that for the immersion and just make it real. I'd really like that. But yeah, apart from that, I think the visual and audio is very good. I haven't seen too many glitches in terms of visual, because obviously you used to get the old disappearing ball. I haven't had that too often.
That's cool.
I haven't had any falling over and flying 300 feet like you've just been through a guard by the Dragonborn. I think it's pretty decent. It's not the best game that I've ever played, but it's promising.
You feel like it's worth building towards something.
Yeah. And then finally, we've got overall impressions and what we think of the game, what we'd rate it out of 10.
Okay. And
favourite things.
So as this is the basis, this is our first game we're ever breaking down in this sports category that's going to be really long. Like, we're going to really try to play every single sports game there's ever been and break them all down. So I'll start this off at 7. I'll give it a 7 because there's things about it that I like. I feel like as the years go on, there'll be better FIFAs, and there has been better FIFAs, and I feel like there's a lot to work on, but there's also a lot good about it. So I'll give it a nice solid 7 for me.
Ideal. What was your favourite thing about it? What was the one thing that stands out?
One thing that stands out is ball control.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and I really enjoy ball control.
Yeah. And what could they improve?
Career mode.
Yes. Okay, yeah, I'd have to agree with career mode. I would say, yes. I would agree with you on the score as well, 7. One of my favourite things is the how well the attack, how fluid the attack is. I really enjoy attacking on the game and the dynamic game plans as well. You haven't really seen much of it, but there was a noticeable difference when we did first start playing FIFA 19. The first few games you played, you didn't do badly. I didn't thump you. I think it was most even we've ever played. And I had quick switch around my tactics, and you couldn't put one past me. And that shows you can adjust depth and width in a way you haven't been able to before. So that's one of my favourite things about it. And what needs to improve is career mode. you know, as an exclusively career mode oriented player, I've done the Ultimate Team. Not a fan. I don't enjoy having to pay for a game on top of it and then pay equal to about 4 times the price to get anywhere on it. So I tend to stick to Ultimate career mode. And it does need a lot of attention.
No doubt. And finally, we were going to break down, as we will with every game that we play, these are all multiplayer games. So we will sort of end each game with who we think's better at it. And I feel like for sure at the moment you're better than me at it, but it's the gap's closing the more I play it, and that's good.
Yeah, I think in terms of its different tactics in it, if we're talking about quick pace attacks, short passing through the middle, it's me all day. Whereas out wide, with you out wide, you're very possession orientated. My players run down their stamina, and it's just if you take your time with the ball, you are almost guaranteed a goal. I think it's just I'm a little bit better at defending on it at the moment. So I'll take that.
Yeah. So you're 1-0 up on that all the time.
I'll take the burden.
1-0 up.
It's a hard life.
We will see where this goes, and we'll keep breaking down games and keep editing this and making different subcategories inside of this and stuff like that. And I really look forward to doing it every single week. And I hope everybody's listening looks forward to doing it every single week. And next week we'll be breaking down UFC 3. If not, if we find something else during the week, we'll just roll that. And we'll see how it goes. Adam will be going out into the world of sports games and finding some cool stuff for us to play.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah, we will wrap up that segment. That was Ace. Thanks for being a part of it. And
can't wait till next week to learn that a flying kick does nothing but strengthen a relationship.
That's it, no doubt. And we will move on now to the weird and wonderful Rise Randoms. Welcome back to the PIXI Gaming podcast, and now we'll be entering the weird and wonderful world of Rise Randoms. And today, given that we're both avid Star Wars fans,
I don't know, am
I? Not only of the films, but obviously of the games as well. So, obviously, gaming podcast. We'll talk about the games, and this question, which is my Rise Random today, is if you could have a remaster of either one of these 2 Star Wars games, and they would be full, unbelievably good Red Dead graphics, detail and everything, almost like a remake rather than a remaster. And you could have a choice of Lego Star Wars or The Force Unleashed.
I mean, I'd rather they did Battlefront 2, right? Where's Galactic Conquest offline? Come on, space battles are decent, but why can't you get out of the ships? Come on, do Battlefront 2, right? Lego Star Wars, right? Bonuses, do pros and cons. Pros, you could build almost anything. You could build your own spaceships, I suppose. Do everything. Can you imagine the graphics on a full Lego world? I could see why that would be good. Bad, tacky. It'd feel cheap. Force Unleashed.
Better bring down that Star Destroyer.
Yeah, bring this 4K. The Force Lightning.
Yeah.
It's so realistic. You could smell people burning in real life.
Yeah,
it'd have to be Force Unleashed 2 a day. Just the 2 lightsabers. It's so good. And now there's so many more characters you could add into it. Things like that,
A remake of that game, though.
But like there was the DLC at the end where you got to go to like Endor, kill Luke, Leia, and Han, things like that. The graphics on it, space travel, things like that. You'd have obviously like the Star Destroyer falling at you. Like, can you imagine that on a 50-inch plasma, surround sound, and the graphics? It'd be incredible.
Sweet, so there we are. That wraps up Rise Randoms. Short one this week, but I will always be hitting you with something completely different every time, as I always do. So that moves on to the end of the show and the thought of the day. And that is today. Well, number 1 thought of the day. We have 2 today. Number 1 thought of the day is well done to Amy, who sat in the corner and been who's
poorly
sick as a pig, and has done so well in this audio recording and recording our first actual recording in not sniffling. So
yeah.
Well done.
As soon as we get off camera, it's just constantly.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
No doubt. And the other thought of the day is, so time to take it to the next level, and that's something that everybody should think about in any kind of dream that they have. And the fact that you're now joining me in this dream, a dream that we're going to build together, and with everybody else that's going to be a part of this, and we're going to end up building this into what we want it to be, and that is a great podcast service and something that everybody enjoys watching and has a great time listening to, and that we talk about, and that we have a platform for ourselves, even ourselves and other people, to be able to speak freely on how games make us feel, and how we understand the emotions of the games, we understand how these games try and make us feel, and all this kind of stuff, and how different things make us feel different ways, and how games affect us in everything. And it's great.
It's amazing how much you lose yourself. And I've had an awful couple of days, but
that's it.
It's how you get engulfed by this huge world of fiction.
That's
fact. It can be anything you want it to be.
And the fact that they're escaping in a lot of ways, and there's something that we're going to be breaking down. And the fact that it's given us, we've now got these new segments, and that you're now joining me on this is something that I'm really, really thankful for. And I hope that, well, not even I hope, I seriously am looking forward to doing this every week. So that ends this podcast today. Thank you for listening, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you look forward to all of our sports stuff, and we will see as the weeks go on what we end up, where we end up finding ourselves. So
I can see a weekly breakdown, me breaking down your confidence, mate. That's what it is.
Yeah, we'll see, because there's a lot of basketball games.
Well, to be fair, we're doing UFC next week, so it just means I have to sweat in the hours this week.
Yeah, that's it. I have to have access to it. But right, okay, sweet. We'll thank you for listening, and you'll hear from me soon.